What is up, San Antonio Spurs fans? Welcome to TSR Sports, and it is my honor and privilege to join me on this report card tonight for the first time, Rob from SpursTubeTV, and also joining me again, Jude and Ethan from SSPN. I'll get a real quick introduction from each guy to kind of promote your channel. Rob, since you are new here, maybe over that way, tell me a little about your SpursTubeTV channel.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, Rich. It's good to be here. We're just, lately we've been doing film breakdowns and little, shorts. We're trying to keep it a little bit light and funny over there a little bit as well. But just trying to get some content out weekly. So, if you're into Spurs content, just like all these guys here, you can check out SpursTubeTV as well.
Jude and Ethan.
You go right ahead, Ethan. You were in here first. I was a little late, so I gotta give you the floor.
All right. Well, Jude and I are from SSPN, the Spurs Sports Programming Network. Similar to everybody here, we just cover the San Antonio Spurs and all that jazz. Usually, we're doing post-game like recaps of each game, but we've kind of drifted away from that as of recently because of the holiday break. Jude and I's schedule's a little bit different. We're also in college, so we just try to get like a weekly video out. Kind of a report card type deal, and just kind of going over how the Spurs have been doing during the season.
Yeah, go check out our SSPN lives, and it's just like a podcast. So y'all come chill.
And make sure you support the Spurs community. The links to both their channels are in the description below. Right now, it's hard for Spurs content creators because the team's been losing. We're going into the midseason part here, 11 games under 500 on a 4-game skid. So they can really use your help. Obviously, if you're here, you've already subscribed to my channel. And you're going to get a little something different from each of these channels. I'm kind of the goofy play-by-play comedic videos. Rob's going to give you a lot of interesting little snippets and clips that maybe I don't catch during the game, like little things that Pop's doing on the sideline, or maybe somebody's getting punched in the junk. Just a lot of little highlights that you might not be used to seeing. And then Ethan and Jude do a very great job of breaking down a technical breakdown of what happened in the game when they do their post-game analysis. They cover stuff I didn't even catch in the game because I'm just watching the ball, and they're catching stuff on who's doing this, who's not rotating this and that. So really, all of these guys do a wonderful job. Make sure you subscribe to them. All right. You guys ready for the report card?
Let's do it.
All right. So just to the chat, not going to be able to too interactive with the chat because we have 4 people here talking and there's going to be a lot going on. So if we miss what you're saying, it's not that we're ignoring it. It's just there's a lot going on. So this will be a standard traditional layout where when you see the player stats up, it'll be field goal percentage, 3-point, free throw, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, points per game. If you go to Basketball Reference a lot, which I do, that should look pretty normal. And we're going to start off with our point guard. And to just keep things very simple, we'll just kind of go clockwise around the world, if you will. And Rob, why don't you start off? What's your midseason grade for Dejounte Murray?
Yeah, well, I mean, he's getting the A+. You know what I mean? He's exceeding all expectation. He's gotten better over the past 2 seasons, 3 like huge jumps, I think, starting last year. And then this year he took another one. And that's the easy one. Hopefully he gets that all-star nod, and he's been our leader. He's been our guy. It's hard to give A+s out this year, but he's the easy one.
Ethan?
Got to agree with everything Rob said. A+. He's done everything that we've wanted him to do and more, being our go-to scorer, our go-to facilitator, leading the point guards in rebounding. Defensively, we know what he's been able to do, and improving his 3-point shot has been tremendous this season. I know he's only 33.8%. Exactly. It's up on the board. But that's still a lot better than he was previous. So, A+ from me. I don't think he'll get the All-Star nod, unfortunately, because we're in San Antonio, but most improved player, I think that's more likely.
I'm with the A+ too. I'm not, I know we're going to get some variation in today's show, but with this one with DJ, he's our team leader. We were just talking on the last SSPN Live. He's already kind of exceeded his cap, I guess, if you will. Like going into the year, we thought, okay, Dejounte's ceiling, maybe a second guy on a championship winning team. We're really hitting on that third now after the season that he's had. We just saw the 30-point triple-double with no turnovers. He's one of I forget what the number was on Twitter, but he's one of the few players in NBA history to do that. Wow. Yeah, there you go.
Nikola Jokic, I think, was the other one.
Yeah, there you go. So in good news, though, I actually did find something else out about the All-Star game that kind of would maybe give Spurs fans a little bit more hope. I still wouldn't expect it, but the coaches do pick the reserves. And I think that, whenever it comes to that, Dejounte is going to have a much higher chance of getting picked by one of those coaches, especially depending on who it is, than, just the fan vote, for example, right? So hopefully he can get that all-star nod. He's been our leader. He just, every year, he adds something different and just gets even better. So a phenomenal year for him so far.
I agree with everything you guys just said. And just to touch on the All-Star game real quick, you can see the difference in DeMar DeRozan's voting from the last 3 years as a Spur, now leading guards in the Eastern Conference. And granted, he's not a facilitator, he's scoring, but still, being a Spur is going to keep Dejounte Murray off the All-Star team. I hate to say it. I don't give out A+, but I will admit, up until last night, I was teetering between an A and A- just because I feel like his turnovers have been up a little bit lately, maybe trying to do too much. And then last night, I saw a different Dejounte Murray. I saw the Black Mamba. I saw that killer mentality. He was trying to will his team to win, and a fantastic performance. The first Spurs player to have a triple-double, 30-plus points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists since David Robinson in like 1994. So I got to give him an A. He's our Batman. He needs a Robin. And I don't know if the Robin's on the team, but he has been exceeding all expectations, and the sky's the limit right now for Dejounte Murray.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head, Jude. Last thing I want to say about the All-Star game too is that I think he is going to get it. I think the coaches have to undeniably look at him with a heavy hand this year, just because he's bringing those stats. Like, he's almost averaging a triple-double, right? 18, 8, and 8 pretty much. And versus like last year, DeMar DeRozan, he was having all right numbers, and they got edged out by Mike Conley. I don't see anyone like Mike Conley or anyone like that who gets that honorary vote over DeJounte this year. I kind of think there's some respect happening around the league, at least amongst the coaches and maybe the execs in that vote.
The players too. I've seen some players starting to tweet. I think Zach LaVine was through something. I let my boy tearing it up. So you see it from some players now too. I mean, to lead your team in scoring, leading the NBA in steals, second on your team in rebounding, and first in assists. That's a lot. I mean,
DeMar wasn't doing that.
No. Not talking about the David Robinson too much, but the last guy that I remember carrying the team that much and leading in that many categories was him in the 90s when he had Sean Elliott, without much else.
Yeah, and another thing too, I mean, just look at what happened when he went out. That's all you need to know.
What happened when he got back?
Yeah, there you go.
It's like when he got back, it's like he didn't even have like if he wasn't even in protocol. You know what I mean? It was just like boom, he was right back at it. I was like, oh my goodness,
here's tough. Sad thing, and I mentioned this on one of your streams as well, is this is 2 years in a row. Last year, the Spurs were the 5th overall seed, got hit with health and safety protocol, and then went right like that. The Spurs knocked the Clippers and the Lakers right out of the Staples Center, stomped on them both. Health and safety protocol, and whoop, here we go, right down that spot, right down that rabbit hole again.
Deja vu.
Not the good deja vu. But you know what? I think this is going to be the dream season for many Spurs fans where Pop gets the record, where you end up being good enough to make the play-in but don't go anywhere, and then get a high lottery pick. All right, Rob, up next, Derrick White. And I think I'm very curious to see where we all grade-wise on this one, because we all agreed on Dejounte Murray, but I have a feeling we're not going to agree on Derrick White.
Derrick White, I was teetering a little bit with Derrick White too. He had those early struggles, and that really brought him down across, I think, Spurs Nation's eyes, and like, oh man, he's struggling. We need him, right? But something to me is his defense, and it's been there night in, night out, right? Forget about the offensive side and the playing defense the way that he does. I'm going to give him a B+, right? So that B+ is basically based off that. And all of my grades tonight are going to kind of be based off my preseason expectations and then kind of like what we're getting, right? And I'm going to kind of put those two things together. And I expected Derrick White to be that defensive guy, and he has, right, on a night-to-night basis. And he's been healthy for the most part, right? With the exception of we all know, right? But so in that case, I'm going to give him that B+.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn between C+ and B- because he has improved dramatically since his really abysmal start to the season. But my expectations were just a little bit higher than what he's been able to give us on the offensive side of the ball. I hear what you're saying, Rob, about defense. Yeah, he's always there. Probably a top 3 defender on our team. When you think of Dejounte, him, and maybe Devin Vassell or Jakob Poeltl, actually. So maybe top 4. But offensively, only averaging 14.5 points a game, 29% from 3. You really expected that to be his thing, be that sharpshooter next to a Dejounte Murray. But Dejounte has been a better 3-point shooter than him all season long. So hopefully he can kind of turn that around. I know he's gotten a little bit better, and facilitating the ball is still one of his main strong suits, especially when Dejounte's not in the game. He's able to kind of take over those point guard duties. But still, I expected a lot more from him as far as scoring the basketball. So I'm not willing to give him that B+ quite yet. But the season still has we still have some games to go, so he could prove us completely wrong.
Half of them.
Yeah, half of them.
There's something that I was just thinking about when y'all were talking, and it's just Derrick kind of in those clutch moments. It seems like that's where he's really been able to turn things on, but we haven't been able to see that as much in the regular season. Like when we were talking about this, him, like all of our high expectations come from that Denver series, the bubble, the way that he's played and, when the game's on the line. And I think that his play is elevated. I think he's one of those players who does step up, but at the same time, you got to get there first. And, he's a big part of getting there. He's our highest paid player on the roster. So I'm going to give him a B. And I know that I just kind of started out a little critical there, but I agree with Rob. I think that his defense kind of goes a little bit underappreciated. Like every night, there's something that he does that just, he's an annoyance to whoever he's guarding. And it's there every single night. And that's something that you've got to be happy with consistently out of the backcourt with him. And that's something that I think if he was taken out, I mean, he has been taken out. We've kind of seen, just lost the Rockets last night. So his absence is seen a little bit there, but the reason that, and I feel like I'm being a little bit nice to him here because that 3-point shooting, that's been the biggest disappointment for me so far this year for Derrick. Coming into the year, I remember there were a lot of comments that we just mentioned this in the last live stream we did. Derrick, Dejounte, and Keldon. It was like, okay, where's the shooting going to come from out of those guys? Like, obviously, we want them all to have incremental, increases. Obviously, you didn't want to be too over dramatic with it. But the thing with Derrick is I felt like he was going to be the guy out of those three who was going to be that sharpshooter. And it just hasn't happened this year. So, hopefully maybe this is just an off year. I know that happens sometimes in the NBA and he can come back next year stronger, or even the next half of the season, like TSR just mentioned. But yeah, I'm going to give him a B just for the defense. And hopefully, he can get back on track on offense the rest of the year.
Okay, well, this is where the chat kills me then. I have loved Derrick's defense pretty much throughout there, and he is one of the best at taking charges in the NBA. He had a huge charge he took against, I forgot who it was near the end of the game.
Boston.
A very risky play. Was it Boston? Yeah, Boston. Man, we tried to choke that game away. That being said, Rob, I'm kind of with you. My expectation when you are, at least this season, I believe he's the second highest paid player and then becomes the highest paid player. When you get that big fat contract, I'm expecting more. And while I like everything I'm seeing statistically for the most part, rebounds, assists, steals, the 42% field goal percentage and the under 30%, which I would feel is the Mendoza line for 3-point shooting, has been a disappointment. So I'm actually going to give him a C+. The 14.5 points per game is not what I expected this year. I really was thinking him and Dejounte would be in that 18 to 20 club. That would be the Batman and Robin, a key. Whereas Dejounte has exceeded my expectations. Derrick's fell below them. Now, it's still early in the season. I hope he turns it around, and I think he can. But he's been healthy. Minus the protocol thing, we don't have when Derrick's healthy. That's what we said last year. When he's healthy, he's healthy. And right now, the shots just aren't going in for him.
That's fair.
All right, my guy, my favorite player whose jersey hangs on my wall behind me, Keldon Johnson. Because I got to do that for Keldon.
Keldon Golden Johnson, right? Big body. Man, on my first, I did two sheets, right? I did one earlier and then I kind of adjusted it later. And the first one, I had him at a C+. And I know that's probably low for a lot of people. He ended up getting a B. And the only reason why he moved up is because he's like one of our best 3-point shooters on the team, one of the better 3-point shooters in the league. But everything else to me has been questionable. His decision-making, his attack off the dribble, his mid-range jumper. He's been great catching and shooting the ball. Even his kind of impact has kind of gone down a notch this season. And I think that's because of personnel. I think we have a lot more players this year that can impact the game in a positive way versus the last few years where it's like, man, we just needed somebody with energy, right? And it was Keldon. And this year we have a couple guys I think that can bring that energy. And Keldon, I think, has kind of fallen off a little bit. I still love him in the starting lineup. He's not someone I want to take out, but if I'm evaluating my preseason, coming off that gold medal, and the ball moves around. That's the thing. It's like, it's hard to say that someone's not getting touches. They're all getting touches, and it's just, what they're doing with them. And I think Keldon's taking a little bit longer adjusting to whatever coverages he's seeing this season. But the fact that he is killing it from the 3-point line is definitely, it can't be below a B for myself. But that's what it's going to be. It's just going to be a B, not a B minus, but a B.
I agree. I also went with a B for Keldon Johnson. When he's on the court, you can see his impact, but to me, the issue is that he's a little too hit and miss. And part of that is because he has so much tunnel vision, in my opinion. Oftentimes, the best things that he does is, attack the rim, get easy buckets, get fouled, get to the line. But sometimes that's detrimental, especially when he's being guarded by, a quality defender. And then it becomes he drives in, loses where he is, and turns the ball over one too many times. But 3-point percentage, like you guys said, is just way up this year. Really happy to see that. Did not expect that at all. 3-point contest, maybe. I don't know. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. I actually doubt it happens, but you never know. But when he plays on the team, he's definitely a difference maker because defenses have to be aware of where he is at all times because he's such an energy player. And that just makes things easier for Dejounte and Derrick and everybody else to score. But to me, I think it's just going to have to come down to patience, and that comes with time, kind of understanding where he can get his baskets at a more efficient clip, which is probably just because he's really young still. So that's probably going to be an issue for the rest of this season, maybe going into next season. Hopefully he can turn it around before too long. But I think B is fair because he hasn't necessarily performed underneath my expectations, but he hasn't exceeded anything other than 3-point shooting, in my opinion, either.
So I'm with a B2, and it's really, I'm echoing kind of the same reasoning as you guys. At the end of the day, his 3-point shooting has been something that's came out of nowhere. That was probably one of the biggest things. We were just talking about Derrick, Dejounte, and Keldon, as being those 3 guys who needed to improve. We've seen Dejounte and then specifically Keldon make huge jumps. And I think that's crucial for his game because before that, if you look at last year, he could make a wide open 3, but he was really just, all right, let me be a running back, go straight to the rim and just try to, big body through a layup, right? And we've seen that this year, sometimes kind of stop the ball, like Rob was mentioning with the ball movement. Sometimes he'll get it and he'll be like, all right, it's my time to ISO and just, go in and get a layup, and then it turns into a turnover. But his rebounding ability, his energy, and his ability, which sometimes, it's very scarce, like Ethan mentioned, but his ability to kind of have a big game sometimes. I forget what game it was. I want to say it was one where Dejounte was out and he had like 29 earlier this year or 23. Oh, it was the Pistons game. I forget. And he got taken out early. He could have probably had like 35 or something in that game if he kept playing. Obviously, it was against the COVID-ridden Pistons. But that night, we needed somebody to step up like that. And he did that. So it's mainly the 3-point shooting. Another thing I want to touch on that Rob kind of mentioned, at the beginning of the year, I felt like we saw a little bit more of that mid-range bag. And like since then, it's just been non-existent. So that would be the thing that I would challenge Keldon to get better at and kind of get back to. But I know he has a certain role in the offense, and they'd probably rather have other guys doing that. But that's what I'd kind of challenge him to, get up into that A category.
So, Jude, I'm guessing you did not see last night's Spurs game.
I must have not.
Because Keldon was actually showing some new tricks from his time back from health and safety. He was showing us some mid-range, some turnaround. He was showing some different tricks, scoring on different points of the court, and hopefully that carries over to the rest of the season.
There we go.
You guys know he's my favorite player, but I'm not going to sugarcoat a grade. I'm giving him a C+. I love the energy. The 3-point shooting has been a huge surprise, but not a huge surprise because he shot extremely well in his rookie season. Limited capacity, kind of fell off a cliff last year, and this year he started off terrible. The first 10 games, he shot like 14%. So for him to be at 44% is ridiculous. But the decision-making, the occasionally running into a wall in the paint and not getting the calls and missing the shot and forcing the shot just shows you, if you take a look at his stats, I don't have them up here, but his 2-point field goal percentage is 46% this year, from 59 to 53 to 46. So that shows you his non-3-point shot. He's not taking the best shots and he's missing them. And I'm kind of disappointed his free throw metrics, like most of the team, are heading in the wrong direction from about 80% to 74 to 69. What's going on with our team in free throws? I'm sure we're all going, what happened with the free throws? But overall, I give him a C+. I still think he can turn the season around and just not be tunnel vision like you guys said. The refs are not giving him the calls this year. And if the shot's not there, pass it off. And it's, if he starts using this mid-range game more and can now have an inside-outside game that's lethal, he's going to be tough to defend.
Another thing about Keldon, that Grant Williams poster, I was there live to watch that. That's definitely his moment of the year. Hopefully we can get more of those.
That was
Yeah,
awesome.
I love that game against Denver. It was the first time we played Denver, and he was eating Aaron Gordon's lunch. Like, he was just bullying him.
He was making him mad.
And I was like, oh my goodness, Keldon is on a level. But like, like most players, there's been a lot of inconsistency.
San Antonio Spurs, consistently inconsistent.
Yeah.
Dougie McBuckets, Dougie McDermott, Dougie McDormat. He's got a whole bunch of different names on my channel from various subscribers. Let's start with the Doug.
Well, that's a perfect segue of inconsistency. He might go from hitting 5-6 threes in a night. He had his career high one of these first 20 games, I think. And then there's nights where he doesn't even like get 1 or 2 off in the whole game. And so he's gonna get a B from me as well. I think I expected him to be as bad as he is on defense. A lot of times when players are getting wide open layups off the dribble, it's Doug. It's they're targeting him on switches. They're going at him a lot this season, and that's kind of expected. I wanted to give him like a B- or something, but I think he's still shooting at a decent rate. Right, it was a 41% this season. Is one of the top shooters on our team. So, I mean, he's doing what we're asking him to do, and that's knock down shots. And he's unselfish. He's bought in. He's a complete, I think, Spur player. It was a great pickup in the offseason. I'm waiting for him to just put it all together in a string of games that leads to wins, right? Because sometimes he might go off here and there, but we struggle. And I think he's trying to figure that out too. Just like any other new Spur, there's that period of time where they're extremely passive and they're almost too friendly. They don't want to cause any waves, right? We're all used to that, when we get new guys in the gym. And I think he was going through some of that. So I kind of want to give him that break. But I mean, he's hitting him, man. He's shooting that rock, and that's what we brought him in to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and give him a B.
I'm gonna go with a B-. Statistically, he is exactly what we wanted him to be. He's a guy that can spread the floor, make open jumpers, and that's pretty much it. He's an efficient scorer, a guy that's surprisingly a lot better at off-ball movement than I gave him credit for during the signing, as far as like cutting to the basket and being a little more athletic than I thought he would be. I didn't think that he would have as many dunks as he's had this season, for example. Where Doug McDermott loses me is he doesn't just have like off games. He has games where you didn't even know he was playing. Like it'd be one thing if he hit like 1 for 3 or 2 for 6. And you're like, oh, he just kind of shot like tonight. But he just had like 0 for 1 and played 30 minutes. And it's like he wasn't even on the court. So I don't know if that's the offense just not looking for him, or we're not utilizing him correctly, or if that's just him not being aggressive. I don't know what the fix is, but we got to figure it out quick, because he's one of our more versatile players and a guy that, to me, with his signing this offseason, I thought he could make a pretty significant difference, considering our biggest flaw last year was 3-point shooting. So hopefully we can kind of turn up his usage a little bit more. I know he's averaging 11 points, but that really doesn't tell the whole story of the entire season, because more often than not, he's really just, you're not even going to notice that he's on the court, unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me of one last point. Sorry, Jude, before I forgot to say, was that exact point is why I feel like he's the one, and no one ever talks about him coming out of the starting lineup, that starting lineup that we've seen for the majority of the season. I feel like if anyone has to get dropped for, a Devin Vassell or somebody to be inserted, I feel it's Doug. And I just, because of that factor that you just brought up, Ethan.
I think that's a very interesting conversation there. And once again, I'm kind of just going to echo you guys. I was teetering between a B and a B-. So I'm like, maybe I should just mix it up. It's a B- plus. Anyways, the thing with Doug, it's crazy, because at the end of the day, it's like, look, you signed him to shoot 40% from 3, and he's doing that, right? Just to be on a little bit on the positive side, the one thing that coming into this season, and maybe this was just me not watching enough Pacers film on him, but his ability to cut and the way that he can make some tough layups, like they can be contested. He can kind of go under and give a little up and under there. So I was very impressed with that. But kind of echoing Ethan, it's not utilized enough. like it seems like some games he just disappears, and then the games where he's on, it's like sometimes it's like, okay, he hits like 3 threes and then doesn't really do too much the rest of the game. So, with the way that we're paying him, and it's not even all just about like money, but he has a lot of ability that could help this team. So I think if we just, maybe do some off-ball screens for him more, getting moving, maybe even switch him to the 3, have him play that a little bit more, have him play on the perimeter, that could maybe allow for some more 3-point opportunities. But the main thing is just he's been consistently inconsistent, like a lot of this team. And so, I'm going to give him, in between there, just because he's been that 3-point shooter for us at the end of the day when we look at the stat sheet. But, we need to, I don't think that it's him though. I think that it's kind of the usage and the scheme some nights. And so I think if we can get him a little bit more involved and he can get some more shots up consistently every night, that'll help out our offense.
I got Doug where you guys have him. I have him as a B because he's doing what we brought him in to do. Hit 3-point shots. He's a shooter. He's going to be streaky. Well, the other problem with Doug is not so much him, but the way we're using him. I see what we tried to do with Bryn Forbes 2 years ago, putting him in a starting role, and he's a good player. I like him, but I think he's better off the bench. And forcing him to that starting role is exploiting. He's with Bryn Forbes, when he's not making his shots, now you have an offensive liability and a defensive liability. Now you're getting hurt on both ends of the floor. So Doug, he'd be the one I would pluck out of the starting lineup, and I would like to see maybe Devin Vassell start getting some starts. I don't think the Spurs are going to do that. They just gave Doug the contract. I think they're going to ride with him this year, unless Zach Collins comes back and all of a sudden
That's what I was
wowing
just
us
thinking.
and gets the start of the power forward, which I think most Spurs fans are hoping. Please be good, because we are so undersized every single night we're on the floor and getting crushed on the board. Second chance, third chance, fourth chance opportunities for the opposing team, for crying out loud.
Yeah. Just kind of to wrap that inconsistency bow up, I feel I made a video that I never put out after like the 15th game or so this season that I was kind of going off. I was in my car and I was kind of ranting. That's why I didn't put it out. But I was like, we asked for this. Like, look, this way the Spurs are playing this year with the lack of like sets. They rarely run sets. They're moving, penetrating, kicking, move the ball. That's just like how we play. So that's gonna differ from night to night from who we're playing against, like who's going to get more touches night to night. It changes so much. It's not like we're running these like 6, 7, 8 plays and we're running, this pick and roll all the time to get this shot or whatever. It's going to lead to inconsistencies, but you always saw players getting, like in the first month of the season, you had like 2 or 3 players get career highs every week. Like it was Jakob, and then it was Doug McDermott, and then it was someone else getting a career high and something. And it's just, that's because the ball is moving, but that led to a lot of losses early on in the season and a lot of inconsistencies amongst the group from game to game. And Dougie, it's funny that you mentioned Bryn Forbes there, Rich. It does feel like that a little bit. And Ethan, you were talking about those games where you feel like he's just not there. It was Dallas. I remember it was like the second time we played Dallas, I think, where he was in there like the whole fourth quarter and Brunson was going at him like 4 or 5 times in a row. I don't know if you remember that. And it was like, why? That was the game where he didn't even hit. I think he was like 0 for 2 or something. And it's just like, why is he in there the whole fourth quarter? And that's coaching decisions, right? And it felt just like Bryn Forbes two seasons ago, Rich. That's a good point.
I thought so. Up next, and I just want to clarify for everybody in the chat, for Jakob Poeltl, that's not 39% from beyond the arc. That's 39% from the free throw line. Just to clarify that.
Okay. Jakob is getting an A+. Preseason expectations, man, I had no clue what was coming this season from Jakob. And I remember at the end of last season, I was like, I don't know how he gets better. I was like, I really don't know how he gets better besides maybe just being a little bit more efficient. But man, did he show us, man. Like I had no idea that his passing ability was going to be there like it is. I think he's third in our team with total assists and assists per game, only behind Dejounte and Derrick. I mean, like he's able to find guys and set up guys and what he's doing on the rebound statistic is across the league is spectacular too, right? He's leading the league. He was leading the league in offensive rebounds per game, I think a few weeks ago. And I mean, he might be now still, I don't know, but he is just completely transformed himself to like a huge asset, modern day big man-esque type player, where you actually think of him as a playmaker. And that's something that I did not see coming. And it's been one of the main reasons why we're competitive from night in, night out. Like I said, it changes who's going to get touches from night to night, but I'll tell you what, Jakob is the guy that's finding the open guy. Whoever that guy is, Jakob's doing a great job of having that vision in a half court. And to me, that was just huge. And since he blew my expectations out of the water, it's hard for me to give him anything less than an A+. I think he's elite this year. You can say he's one of the elite big men in the NBA.
He is third on our team in assists.
I gave him an A- for everything that Rob said. Defensively, we know what he is. He's the anchor. Without him, we saw what happened to our team. We just took an absolute nosedive when he was out early on in the season. He's surpassed my expectations for sure as a rebounder, as a passer, like Rob said. Also as a scorer, I didn't think he would get into 12 points a game. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but to me, that's an improvement for Jakob. The only negatives I have for Jakob Poeltl, one, his free throw percentage is absolutely atrocious. I mean, if he just fixed that, he'd be worlds better. And they didn't have to be at like at 80%, just like 65%. That's all I want. Even 60%. I'll take 60% at this point.
Give me 50 right now.
Yeah, give me 40. Honestly, let's take baby steps. Give me 40%. That, and also I feel like his aggression as far as scoring the basketball has really declined as the season has progressed. I don't know if that was because of his injury early on, or his COVID, excuse me. Sorry, Rich should have said that.
All right.
His sickness early on. But I would like to see him kind of return to that early season form as far as dunking the basketball, really looking for his own shot, because he has a really nice low post game. I think when he takes hook shots, when he takes up and unders, like, he's got good footwork. He just really avoids doing it. I know he's looking to pass, and that's a good thing, but also he's 7 feet tall, and he can probably get his own bucket if he really wanted to. So I'd look for him to make those two changes, and he's going to be an A+ at the end of the season.
I'm giving him an A- as well. The kind of the term that we've referred to for Jakob on our channel is baby Gobert, kind of Rudy Gobert light a little bit, right? Just for the way that he's the defensive anchor in the paint. Obviously, the one thing that, and I think this has just been our team, the way that I think we just switch everything. And so there's a lot of times where he gets left out on the perimeter and gets exposed. But that happens to Thad Young. That's happened to Drew Eubanks. And that's happened to Jock Landale. Like, that just, for whatever reason, we allow our bigs to play perimeter defense against like Luka Doncic or something, which is beyond me. But that's besides the point. Other than that, he's just been our guy, man. It's not the prettiest. You see the put shot, but it goes in. And that's what matters. And I think my main thing on Jakob is, even though like we've seen improvements on the stat sheet this year, so much of what he does doesn't show up on the stat sheet. And once again, echoing what Ethan said, when he went out, you saw what happened to the paint defense. And I think we've really learned this year that kind of Jakob and Dejounte are really like our anchors in that starting lineup. They really hold down and set the tone defensively for our team. And we know that that's such a huge part of the Spurs identity.
I'm actually going with the A- as well. He is outplaying his contract. Somebody did an analysis a few weeks ago that said he'd be about a $15 million a year center, as opposed to, I think he's getting 8 or 9 right now.
Yep.
But the free throw shooting is killing us. And his toughness in the paint is inconsistent. Some nights I see him out there, and somebody mentioned it does seem like he's dunking more here and there. He'll throw down 3 or 4. And look, it's not all about dunking, but when the rim's right there, go for the extremely high percentage shot. And sometimes he throws up that Olay stuff and he misses, or sometimes he gets rejected from behind. But he is certainly exceeded my expectations. That being said, when we watch Jakob play against one of the top 5 centers in the NBA, you see there is a massive gap from top 5 to where he is, which is probably fringe top 10. It's like, okay, so we have a good quality starting center, but what is spared between the top guys when he has to go one-on-one with them? Okay. I'm interested to see how everybody grades this guy, because he's in a contract year. We're talking about Skywalker, Lonnie Walker.
All right. So I put out a video, shameless plug or whatever. I put out a video like 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. It's doing actually pretty well. But it's on Lonnie Walker. We should resign him or let him walk. And I kind of did a little eval on the good, the bad, and the ugly of his game. And I would say he's probably developed more since he's come back off protocol than he did in his first, 4 seasons with the previous 3 seasons. There's too much inconsistency there for me with Lonnie on the defensive end. The offensive end is spotty as well, but something I kind of touched on in that video is that he's a big time shot maker. And I don't think you can take that away from Lonnie, is that he can hit big buckets. And the bad and the ugly parts are glaring to me. They're glaring. They're not just like, oh yeah, it happens to everybody. It's like, man, dude, I cannot explain why, why he's still this bad at some of these areas on defense. And, to me, I'm gonna have to give him a C+. I wanted to give him just like a C, but the past few games he has kind of been. He put out a post after I put out that video, and he was like, "Y'all see," or something like that, and I was like, "Is that at me or what?" I was like, "Well, I hope so," because I love Lonnie. That's how I start off the videos. I'm a big Lonnie fan, huge Lonnie fan, but I can't deny that there's big gaps in his play and in his attention to detail and things like that. So my expectation was him to be better this year. And he kind of said it after that game. He went off, right? Like 2 games ago. Who was it against? Who did we just play?
It's hard to keep track of the losses, Rob.
Yeah, I know. We lost Brooklyn. I think it was Brooklyn. And he was just saying, well, this is the first time we've been off the leash, right? I'm like, yeah, dude, whatever, bro. I was like, don't give me that excuse. Lonnie always has something to say, an excuse or something positive. There's always something that he can say. But it's like, bro, Devin Vassell's ready. Devin Vassell's ready every single night, no matter what, on both ends. So don't give me that, oh, this is the first time where we get this run and I'm going to show now what it's like, no, bro, you've been saying the same thing since year 1. You've been saying the same stuff. So I'm honestly, the words that he speaks are now like in one ear and out the other. Cause I used to really like to hear what he said, but now it's like, bro, you gotta put it together on the court or he's going to be gone. I think, I put that question out there. Are we going to bring him back or not? I can't see us doing it. I can't see him just doing it. Even if it's on a good contract. And now I love Lonnie as a person, as a player, as a Spur personality. Like he has a great mindset. He's such a good guy. But at the same time, you look at Devin, you look at Primo, and they're already just right there, right? They're right there with him, if not past him already, on both sides of the floor. So it's just like, you know what? It's hard for me. I really hope he has. Look, I'll also say this. I'll end it with this. I think Lonnie Walker is one good playoff series away from getting a huge contract. I think that's all he needs. All he needs is one. Like if we make the play in and he goes off on national TV or something like that. I think that's all he needs to get much more than maybe we're willing to pay. You know what I'm saying? Pay Lonnie. I think he's that good and he can maybe do it, but I don't know. I don't know. With Lonnie, it's a C+ for me, and I hope that changes because I'm a big fan, like I said. But his peers are right there, and I'm not too sure if he's in our long-term plans.
I also went with a C+. Recently, he's been playing a lot better. I will give him credit. He has been a more efficient scorer. He has been more aggressive on the offensive side of the ball. Props to Lonnie for at least trying to change and to kind of turn it up a little bit. I'll go a little positives first. Playmaking-wise, I think he's a lot better than he was in past seasons. And defensively, I think he's taken strides in the positive direction. He's not going to be a lockdown defender, but at the very least, he's a capable defender along the perimeter, in my opinion. He's always been an energy guy. He's a guy that can get us going with a nice dunk, a nice highlight, a nice scream at the crowd after a really impressive play. And when he's on, he is among the best on the team as far as being an explosive offensive player. But more often than not, he is just consistently inconsistent, where he's not going to show up, or he's going to take a lot of shots and make one or two of them. And really, he just kind of takes it upon himself. Like, all right, I'm Michael Jordan. I'm going to win this game, but he's not Michael Jordan because he doesn't score in the same efficiency as Michael Jordan. he just wants to be like, he wants that same mentality, but he doesn't have like the talent to back it up yet, if that makes sense, which makes it infuriating to watch as a fan, because you just watch him go mid-range jumper, pull up like 10 times a game and miss so many of them. And unfortunately, I also think everybody, including me and maybe the coaching staff, wants him to be more of a spot-up shooter, and I don't think that's his game at all. So I think that just kind of puts him in a spotlight as far as like what the negative thing we can jump at is, and as far as, you know, moving along the perimeter without the basketball in his hands, being ready to knock down jumpers like a Bryn Forbes. That's just not him. And I don't think that will ever be him. And unfortunately, there are just too many guys on the roster that are better at having the ball in their hands and deserve it more than Lonnie Walker. Dejounte Murray, I'd argue Tre Jones at this point is a better facilitator off the bench than a Lonnie Walker would be. So he's kind of in this limbo stage where he doesn't really fit into the offense as a scorer, nor is he an off-ball guy. So his negatives really have shown. But he still has half a season to go. He's been getting a little bit better. Hopefully he can continue to do those great things that we have witnessed him do. But at this point, I also would not give him the extension.
I'm going to roll with the C+2. Lonnie, so he's like a microwave that doesn't work that often. But when it does work, it's really good. Like your popcorn's great. But most of the time, you only get like a quarter of the kernels. And it's just so crazy.
You break a tooth that way, man.
It feels, there you go, right? It feels like this is his best year. And, you've had a couple of those 20-point performances where he's really been doing a great job scoring, right? And being that, microwave guy. But at the end of the day, you still see the defensive inconsistencies. It's still once a game, he has the ball in his hands and it just goes away. It's not in his hands anymore, when he's on a drive or whatever it may be. And I think also, like Ethan said, him in that kind of a role of a spot up shooter, I feel like this is, at least watching, I feel like this is the year where I've seen him hit the most threes. But then when we're on this live stream and I see Rich pulling up his numbers, he's at 30% still. So, and another thing I was thinking, other than Luka Samanic, if you take him out, every single first round pick, you've had Keldon, and then you had Devin, and then you've had Josh Primo. In all honesty, all of those guys, in my opinion, and Primo might be blasphemous to some of y'all, but I think that he's at, like, those guys are ahead of him on both sides of the floor right now. Like, I'd rather play Primo than him because he fits the role better, and he honestly has a better foundation defensively.
Okay. I'm giving Lonnie a D for 2 words. Contract year. When you're in a contract year with your team, you have to have your best season by far. And Lonnie has regressed shooting-wise from last season, under 40% and under 31%. And you guys are all saying kind of the same thing. You don't think he'll be back next year. He's crazy athletic. The shots just aren't going in. Maybe that could be the Spurs not using him correct. We have seen other Spurs leave the team recently. Chimezie Metu is actually doing well with Sacramento. Trey Lyles had a couple of huge games with Detroit. So maybe that's the Spurs organization now, maybe losing a little of that eyesight and not putting players in their best positions to succeed. But still, I don't think he's going to be a Spur next year. And I like Lonnie, and I hope I'm wrong. And he turns his season around and when do a final season report card, I'm like, man, Lonnie was mid-season. I was beating him up, but man, he finished at an A- and he'll probably get re-signed. But I don't see anything different from this year, overwhelmingly different from this year from last year that says he's going to be an all-star someday. I think he's going to be an exciting player that you're always going to see potential, but unless something changes, he's never going to fulfill that potential.
Yeah, I mean, like he's out of the totals this season, he's made the most threes on the team. He's tied with Bryn Forbes at 59. You have Keldon Johnson with 58 so far this season. But he's taken the most out of everybody, 193, almost. Let me see. Oh, actually, no. Derrick White's taken one more than he has. So he's taken plenty of shots. And it's funny. It was the Brooklyn game that I'm talking about, where he scored the first 12 points. Right? It's like he can do those things where he scores the first 12 points of the game. But even during that little streak, if you guys, I don't know if you guys got to catch the game, but did y'all hear what Bill Land said? Bill Land said it. It's like, I think when he had scored like his 7th or 8th bucket now, he was like, wow, well, Lonnie Walker, he's like, the problem is his lack of consistency being aggressive, or his however he phrased it or whatever. I'm just like, look, I don't have, it's not like we're not all just making this up. Even Bill Land, is saying it on the broadcast. And he's like, man, we wish we can get this every night.
Yeah.
It's a big year for him, like you guys are saying. And I'm just not, I don't know. Anyways.
Good way to close it. Up next, our first lottery pick in 2 decades, Devin Vassell.
DV, man, this guy is big time. And when we're playing, like when we played against Philly and they came out and like slapped us, it's like they just were on another level. I feel like Devin was the only guy that was there for it. And I think he had the first two buckets, 2 3 balls, I think, to kind of to give us our first 6 points. But on a game-to-game basis, I feel like he's one of the only guys. I would say maybe Dejounte is like this too, but Devin Vassell plays like he thinks I'm the best player on the floor. It doesn't matter who I'm playing against. I'm the best player. And he comes out and he's so confident. And I remember him talking about it in the beginning of the season, how, he's just like, he was kind of saying, I'm going to get more shots and you guys just have to see. Like, y'all, I'm just going to let you guys see it. And man, you see it. And he needs to start, in my opinion. He's one of the only guys that can create his own shot, who can knock it down from the mid-range off a curl, or he can knock down that open 3 ball too. I mean, so he can do basically what Doug does. And then you substitute him in, because now you probably have one of your better defensive lineups that you can put out there. Derrick, Dejounte, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, and Jakob Poeltl. It's like, yeah, that sounds great. You know what I mean? But like you said, I don't know if the Spurs do it. The Spurs way will not let that happen over, I don't think this year, but it should. And I think it should, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an error on the Spurs part, not giving this guy a lot more run, because it's kind of hard to look at the basketball reference. And he started 4 games this year because of all the the ins and outs of the different players, but so has Primo, right? And Primo's a rookie, right? So it's just like you just wish that there was a gap there a little bit. You want to see Devin a little bit more in the foresight of what's gonna be the next era of the Spurs. And I think when you think about that, like you said, Rich, it's Devin, and to lump Primo in that too. Those are our 2 top picks that we've had in a long time. And you can see that both of those guys are leaps and bounds above pretty much everyone else on our team. I would even say Dejounte. Like, if you gave Devin the freedom, the minutes, the role that Dejounte has, he would be doing similar things. Maybe not averaging a triple-double or whatever, not breaking all these individual statistics that Dejounte is doing, because Dejounte is a great rebounder, our best rebounder, you can argue. And I just feel like Devin gets that A+ from me, because he, again, like I said, whenever we're going against a big-time team, I'm like, dude, Devin has to get more minutes, because he's never afraid of the moment, and he's going to knock it down. Like, he's going to knock down his shots. He's going to be a great defender. And this season has only put more confidence in that opinion in my eyes.
I went with an A. I agree with what Rob said 100%. I think he deserves a lot more touches. The dude's swag is off the charts, guys. Like, last year, I thought he was a little shy, kind of like, oh, I'm just a rookie. Don't look at me. Don't give me the ball. I'm just going to sit here in the corner and knock down 1 jumper a game, and that's all I'm going to do. And this year, since the jump, it's looked like he's like, as soon as he touches the court, he's like, all right, give me the rock. I'm going to go out here, ISO, get a bucket. This is just my game. He's got that, like, I don't want to say Rudy Gay, but Rudy Gay was like his mentor last year. He was Rudy Gay's rookie. So I think Rudy kind of gifted him that personality of like, I'm the scorer. I want to be the guy with the ball in my hands at all times. And defensively, we know what he brings every single night. He's one of the best perimeter defenders. He's very strong, surprisingly, considering his wiry body type. Rebounding, I think he's a really good rebounder. I think he has, aside from Primo, the most potential on the team to become a superstar, in my opinion. He's built like a modern-day superstar as far as length, height, being able to shoot from the outside, get his own shot in the mid-range. He has a bag that's really surprised me. I don't know if he'll really get that many more starts this year, but is it too much to say that he deserves more touches than Lonnie Walker at this point? Because I feel like Lonnie gets the ball way more than Devin does. off the bench. So I think we need to make that change, because right now he's a more efficient scorer than Lonnie, and he's averaging 11 points, the same as Lonnie Walker. So
I'm going to roll with an A- for Devin. His defensive ability is really the thing that has stuck out to me this year. We knew it last year, but this year continuing to see his length and, his wiriness, if you will, when he can, put his hand in there and poke out a ball, get steals. We've also seen him catch a couple bodies this year. Like, he's a dog. Y'all were mentioning how, he has that mentality. It's like him and Dejounte are really kind of the two guys on the team that come out that way, a little bit from Keldon as well. But the way that he has come off the bench this year with confidence has just been so helpful to the team. And I wish he would get more minutes too. I wish he would get the ball in his hands a little bit more also, because, we were talking about Lonnie just before this. And the thing that I look at Devin and the difference between him and Lonnie is Devin is he's a consistent scorer at all three levels, right? That's not the case really even with Keldon this year. That's not the case with Lonnie. So he's one of the few guys on the team that can really do that. The only thing, I guess, when I look at his stat line here that I guess is a little bit surprising to me is his 3-point percentage, which I guess is why I kind of gave him the A-. But at the same time, it's like, when you see Devin Vassell shoot, he's a 3-point shooter. Like, he's going to be fine at the end of the day. But yeah, his rebounding ability as well has really stuck out to me. And it's just funny that you guys were kind of all mentioning, his potential moving forward. Because the other day I had a conversation with another friend who's a big Spurs fan, and he was like, a potential big three that I could see. And of course, we always talk about this. We never know what's going to happen, but was Dejounte, Devin, and Primo. And I definitely think that Devin has that ability to play alongside Dejounte and be somebody who can kind of go get a mid-range bucket or even a step-back three if he needs to, because he's one of the few guys on the team who is consistently scoring at all three levels.
I'm going to A- too. Some shooting percentage a little lower than I'd like them to be. They're not terrible, but I would like to see his percentage just a little bit higher, especially the free throw percentage. I expect better of our guards, more of that 80+%. But what I like about Devin is not only the defense you guys have talked about, getting a steal, leading his own fast break and finishing it coast to coast, but the confidence. Even when he's missing shots, he still shoots with confidence. And earlier in the season, we saw Derrick White actually times avoiding taking a shot in some games where when he was that huge slump, he was like, I'm just going to defer this. And Lonnie, though I think he's shooting more this year, even when he's struggling, I think it still gets in his head. And when his confidence is low, those shots are just starting to misfire left and right. So Devin, I think, is one of our top players that has potential to break out, but are we going to hold him back? Like, how long are we going to, keep that leash on where we're not going to let him get the minutes or the touches too? I think he should be getting more touches. I mean, Lonnie, I like Lonnie, but when you have a player shooting under 40%, that player should start getting less plays called for him. And Devin needs to be able to say, hey, like Pop is doing Primo, throwing him in the starting lineup. Granted, we're out players, but just let Devin go. Just let him, let these guys go. And, he's not, I don't think he's going to be the type of player, if he has a bad game, he's going to be like, oh man, I was 2 of 10 last night. He's going to be like, I'll get him tomorrow.
Yeah, he's our 12th pick. I mean, come on, like he's not just, this 25, 29th pick or whatever in the draft. Like, no, he's a legit two-way player and can be one of the best two-way players in the league. There's times this season where I'm just there and I'm watching the game. I'm just like, God dang, it reminds me of Kawhi. Man, that reminds me of Kawhi. Man, I know we don't want to say that.
Earlier this year.
Yes. I know we don't like talking about him, but I saw it his rookie year. I'm like, dang, it was in small doses, but I'm like, dang, he can do that. Dang, he can do that. And then it took 2 or 3 years for us to, let him go. Like you're saying, Rich, I think it's the biggest disservice to the growth of, I don't want to say him individually, but our team can be so much better, can just be so much better. If we were like, I know we paid Doug money, but I think Doug's a great guy. I don't think he's going to have a problem coming off the bench. I think that's a move. I think that's the move, if I'm being honest, to turn the second half of the season around, is putting Devin in there for Dougie.
He gives us the same offense for the most part, and is a defensive upgrade. And we've been getting smoked on defense lately. We need some D. Mm-hmm. Up next, KBD.
Man, I'm giving Keita an A. Like, I never thought I would do that, but he has been awesome. He is perfectly utilized this season. And, seeing Luka go, that was tough for me. I'm still a big believer in Luka and hope he does well with his career. But I mean, Keita just he's so like he doesn't miss. It's like he's so calm when he catches the ball in the paint. He's so calm when he takes that 3-point shots. He doesn't always knock it down. But man, that Laker game, right? That perfect I mean, I don't know what the stat is, but I bet you there's very little amount of players that have ever had a game like that in their career, where they go perfect from the field and from the 3-point line.
When you're guarding LeBron.
Yeah, and you're guarding the GOAT.
You're matched
right?
up against him. Yeah.
You're not really getting guarded by LeBron.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what he's been able to do, the way that he's been able to keep that starting unit intact while he's had to be in there. There's some nights where he doesn't play, and there's some nights that he does, whatever. I just absolutely love the fact that we can have this guy like that we sometimes don't play, and we put him on Kevin Durant, and we put him on Jason Tatum, and then we put him on LeBron, and he's just guarding the other team's best player and doesn't ever need the ball in his hand. And it's just like, to me, that's such an asset. And hats off to him, because that's just that just shows the work that he's put in. Low key, I don't think anyone ever talks about him, but low key, he's one of the like secret weapons, if you will, on our roster that we can either plug into the starting unit or not even play, or put him on the best player when we have to. It's just so crazy, and he's been able to absolutely deliver on both sides of the floor at a high clip. And so he's not if he's even a part of the team next year or 2 years from now, I don't know when his contract's over, I understand.
Next year.
Yeah. So I understand if he's like somewhere else even, but this year, what he's been able to do for us is definitely top of the class. So I'm going to give him an A.
I'm going to give him an A+ because I expected absolutely nothing out of Keita Bates-Diop when this season was getting started. I didn't even think he would really get minutes prior to Luka Samanic getting cut, obviously. But he's really stepped up in every single way. Like you said, Rob, he stays calm and ready to go whenever his number's called. He doesn't get flustered easily. He's always in the right spot. He doesn't need the basketball to be effective. And defensively, he's been really needed because we lack guys that are both lengthy, can guard guys inside the paint and along the perimeter. And he's able to do that with the best of them, like LeBron James, like Kevin Durant, these guys. Just really terrific play from him all season long. Somebody that he's kind of reminded me of, not nearly as good of a playmaker, but a little bit like Kyle Anderson's role in the Spurs back when we were still trying to get to the championship. But just somebody that kind of fills a need. He's a real gadget guy that can do a lot of things on the court. I don't think he's gonna excel going forward. I don't think he's gonna become a superstar or anything like that. But as far as a role guy on the team that fills a need, he's been perfect all season long.
I'm giving him an A+ too. I mean, my man signed the contract with 17, 18 players on the roster. He was like, I don't care. I'm taking Luka's spot. And he did it. And the way that he's played this year, we talked about being inconsistent or consistently inconsistent. Keita Bates is one of the guys on the team that has just been consistent all year. What you're going to get out of him. If he needs to take shots, sometimes he'll get 30. If he needs to, sometimes it's 15. Sometimes he'll hit a buzzer-beating 3 with somebody in his face. I mean, he doesn't take shots that are unnecessary. He only takes shots when we need him. Sometimes he'll have 0 points, and sometimes we've seen him have 14. So, I mean, his versatility on offense with the way that, he can kind of score at all 3 levels too. But the main thing is his defense. I mean, when you're annoying Kevin Durant and forcing him to miss shots, that's not something that we were expecting from Keita Bates-Diop this year. So, I mean, he's been holding down that 4 position for us. That's somebody, obviously I'm for putting Devin in too, just because I want to give him more minutes, but maybe another option if we want to kind of fix the defensive stuff whenever it comes to Doug McDermott in the starting lineup, throw Keita Bates in there. He's going to stretch the floor, maybe not as good, but he can still make open threes, and he's going to be a better defender and be able to defend on the perimeter and in the paint, like you guys have mentioned. We've even seen him play a little bit of the 5. Obviously, that's not something we want that much, but that's just another testament to his versatility. So what a year for Keita Bates. A steal of a contract. And I'm so glad we signed him on the two-way last year, helped him develop in the G League. And now, I mean, he's a guy for us. And he's 25. He's super young. I mean, he was the Trey Lyles that, he's what we wanted Trey Lyles to be. And I'm glad that it worked out this way because he's more versatile.
I'm going to give him an A myself. He has exceeded all expectations. 2 years, about $3.5 million. I figured he'd be the 11th guy off the bench, the 12th guy off the bench, but he's done fantastic job as a spot starter, outplaying his contract. Not really much to say, except that he's a pleasant surprise. And last year, his game around the rim was kind of like, but this year he's finishing more. He's throwing down dunks. He's scoring more in the paint, and he showed the outside game. 35% is about the league average, so you can't just leave him open on the baseline. And, of course, the 30-point game against the Lakers where he didn't miss a shot to close out the Staples Center. Suck it, LeBron.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Okay, who do we got? Oh, we got our other rookie. Although, is he a rookie? I mean, he's 26. He's an NBL Finals MVP, but he's still a rookie by NBA standards, I suppose.
The Aussie, Jock Landale, right?
Josh Landale.
Josh, dude, my wife and I make that joke all the time too, man. He's like, his name's Josh, right? Because Pop, okay. So, anyways, I'm giving him a B. I wish we got him a little bit earlier, but I understand why they kind of gave the nod to Drew and Thaddeus Young in those first 25, 30 games. But what we've seen out of him, I just kind of need to see more of it. It's funny. We're watching the Boston game, right? And the Spurs, they set everything up. And, I'm a coach, right? I've been in these situations. And I'm telling my wife, I'm like, look, the only thing he doesn't have to do is throw the ball in this direction. Just if you're going to turn it over, literally you tell your player who you have inbounding the ball, look, if we don't have any more timeouts, if you can't get a pass off, just throw it that way, right? Just throw it that way. By the time we touch it and, time runs off, whatever, it's just, they have to travel the whole length of the court, blah, blah, blah. And the first thing he does is make that pass. And I don't hold that against him, right, or anything. We didn't lose the game or anything, but I just want to see more of him. A solid B, I think, is fine. He showed us as soon as he went down to the G League, he showed us that he was bought in. He showed us that he's not going to make waves. He showed us that he's willing to work for what he gets. He went to the G League, bounced back up, and then those next 2 or 3 games, the first thing he did was hit his first shot. And to me, I'm like, that's all up here. That's all like mental. That's all like being ready to play and like hungry for it. Because he would come in and then boom, just pick and pop, knock it down, pick and pop, knock it down. And to me, I'm just like, he's ready. He's ready for more opportunity. And I just want to see him get that opportunity because he's a very skilled player. He's not, he's able to defend with his, I think more of his IQ than his athleticism. But he's sneakily a great finisher around the rim. He can put in dunks. He doesn't get above the rim. It looks like he's like just there, but he flushes it down anyway. So I just want to see him play more. And so, he hasn't played bad enough to get less than a B in my eyes. So I'm going to go ahead and give him a B.
I gave him a B+ because he's definitely an improvement at that backup center spot over Thaddeus Young and over Drew Eubanks. I know he's my guy, but he's definitely an improvement. His ability to stretch the floor is so valuable for our offense, especially because just having a big guy that can actually knock down a jumper is huge in modern NBA. So that alone gives him a B. The plus comes from everything else that he does. As far as understanding how to play basketball, being in the right spot, he's a really good passer, similar to Jakob Poeltl, out of the post and just like at the top of the key. He can find the open cutters. He has a really good chemistry with Tre Jones. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. I know Tre hasn't played in the past couple games, but he and Tre Jones can really play the two-man game with the best of them. I know he's 26 years old, but he still makes those rookie mistakes that every rookie makes, and that's the only negative I have for Jock is that, like Rob said, he throws the ball away a little too much for my liking. Sometimes he's in the wrong position. He gets lost on defense every once in a while, but those are all things that will come with time. He's only played 23 games with the actual San Antonio Spurs. So give him the rest of the season, and all of those things that I just mentioned will get better.
I gave Jock a B+ also, and just want to mention, going back to that last play where he almost blew it against the Celtics, he tweeted after that game and he said, just like he drew it up with the sweating, smiling emoji. So you got to love that he admitted it and he acknowledged it. That's another thing. He's a great personality. The reason that I'm giving Jock a B+ is really kind of echoing what Ethan said. You know, the problem at the beginning of the year for the Spurs was that backup center position, whether it was Drew or Thad, we were kind of playing them both, and they were just getting taken advantage of night after night. It felt like maybe one game here or there, they'd have a good one of them would have a really good game and hold it down. But ever since Jock came in, the size issue was pretty much solved. The only thing, he's a little bit of even though he's 6'11", 255, he's still, not super, I guess, built is the way that you could put it. I don't know. I've never seen him in person, so maybe if I saw him, I'd get a little bit clowned on here, but he gets taken advantage of a little bit and pushed around in the paint a little bit. But that's another interesting aspect to him, which I'm very intrigued to see what happens when Zach Collins comes back. This is something Ethan and I have talked about on our channel a lot. Back in the summer, Jock Landale did an interview with ESPN Australia, basically kind of previewing like, hey, I'm pretty sure I'm going to go to the NBA this year. And he mentioned how he actually saw himself as more of a 4 in the NBA. And with the way that he gives handoffs on the perimeter, the way that he feels comfortable, I mean, he's granted, if you match him up against like a good guard, he's probably going to get taken advantage of. But I'd be really interested to see him playing that 4 spot and see if maybe that minimizes some of the areas where he does get taken advantage of. But even though in the paint, sometimes he gets pushed around, on the offensive side, that's where really I feel like he flourishes in the paint with his offensive rebounding ability, and the way that he's able to finish it, even if it's, with the white guy vertical, if you will. But his stretch 5 ability has just been huge for the Spurs this year. I mean, 42% from 3 I see down there. And his offensive skill and his basketball IQ has just been awesome. There's some areas where he gets taken advantage of, but really he's been a bright spot for us since he started getting consistent minutes.
It should be noted that 42%, Jude, is after I think he was 0 for 4 or 0 for 5 from threes last night. So he's actually much higher until the clunker last night. I want to show a comment real quick, just the first half, because I thought it was really funny. Podcast showing player IP addresses. Love it. See what you did there. Very nice, Calvin. I'm going to give Jock Landale a B myself. Having a stretch 5 out there gives us a total change of pace from the defensive-minded who can only score in the paint, can't shoot a free throw to save his life. Jakob Poeltl, and then we have a guy that can hit his free throws and hit the outside shot. So I like the change of pace. There's been a few times this year Pop has had the weaker twin towers out there in the Yak and Jacques connection, because they're no David Robinson and Tim Duncan yet, not even close, but he has had them out there. And I can't remember if it was effective or not, but it gave us size. And I don't remember who we were playing against, but it was a bigger team and we were getting crushed on the board. So we went bigger. I don't know if Pop's going to keep it going in the future. I could see Jock Landale and Zach Collins sharing the floor at the same time, or Zach and Jakob, but that's who the heck now. There's a running joke now on my channel that Zach Collins is coming back after Christmas 2022. I don't think they were specific on which Christmas he's coming back after. So I like what I'm seeing in Jock Landale. Is he the long-term answer as a backup center? I don't know, but I think he's definitely he's got a much higher ceiling than Drew Eubanks, and that at this point that is showing his past his prime, can still contribute, but he's in the doghouse. He's done with the Spurs. So he's got to. Pop can't keep giving him a short leash. If he makes a mistake, you can't yank him out of the game immediately and then go to Drew Eubanks. Got to give him a chance to make mistakes, learn from them, and continue to grow.
Yeah, I think it was like the next game or 2 games later, we're in a similar situation and they had him inbounding the ball at the end of the game, right? I think it might have been Brooklyn, or I don't know, but yeah, they're letting him fail. They're letting him, learn from his mistakes. And that lineup that you said with him and Jock, I have seen it too, Rich. I haven't seen it too much, but they've been on the floor a little bit, and I like it too. Interesting.
Up next, NBA champion Bryn Forbes.
Bryn, man. Bryn has been awesome. Bryn has been one of the guys that I think we can kind of hang our hats on. And that's a big plus to the coaching staff. The big difference is just we feel like he's in that role that we feel he's going to excel in. And I think he has. I think there's nights where, he's hitting big shots for us, or he's hitting 4 or 5 threes a night for us. And then there's been a couple of games where he doesn't play, and that was earlier on in the season. But I think he's played the most games out of everyone on our roster. He's played 39 games. The next two guys are Lonnie and Keldon and Derrick with 37.
Wow.
So he's been there. You know what I mean? So that's a good that's a plus for him too. He is who he is, and I think he's been doing great things for us. So I'm gonna go ahead and give him an A. I don't know if that's too high, but in my eyes, I think he deserves it.
Yeah, I was gonna go with a B plus, but now I'm leaning toward an A minus because he's doing everything that we thought he would do, which is knock down jumpers and occasionally maybe hit a mid-range shot. Really just be a scorer off the bench that can space the floor. And the only negatives I have about him is that he kind of takes touches away from guys like Devin and Primo, who would ordinarily get those touches maybe. And he's also a really, really bad defender, which both Primo and Devin are really good defenders, and Tre for that matter. But there's been so many games this season where he's really been the reason that we've been in the game because he's such a spark plug, and we'll be completely out of it. It's like, all right, let's just wrap it up here in the second quarter, even the third quarter. It's time to go home. And then he'll come in and he'll hit like 3 threes in a row, and we're right back into it. We have the momentum. And it's moments like those where you forgive him. But yeah, I'm really torn with Bryn because he does keep us in so many games, but at the same time, I really like Tre, I really like Primo, and I think that they are just as deserving as those minutes. But as far as his play is concerned, I think A minus is fair because he's done everything that we've asked from him, except defend.
I'm going to give him an A minus as well. It all comes back to the defense, but I think the reason that I'm giving him the A minus here is because we know what he is kind of coming in. And I think that he's still a much improved version after spending that year in Milwaukee of himself. And so it's been fun to see that. While we're having this conversation, I'm thinking about him like, man, he's basically just like a consistent shooter, like version of Lonnie. Like, I know that Lonnie obviously is much more athletic and can kind of get to the rim a little bit more and has more physical tools. But like, when you just look at like their role on the team, it's like, maybe we should just give those minutes to Bryn, because at this point, defensively, they're kind of the same thing. And he's way more consistent scoring the ball. Obviously last night against the Rockets, even though I didn't catch it, I did see how hot he was. And like Ethan mentioned, he's been the reason why we've been in some games, and he's just a veteran presence. He knows the Spurs. He's on like a minimum deal. So he's a solid guy to have. And he's done basically, like we said, everything that we've asked of him this year other than defend. But we knew who Bryn was coming in. So it's been a solid year for him.
When it comes to changing tires, I'm going to give him an A because he helps somebody out by changing a tire. As far as the Spurs go, though, I'm gonna give him a B. The offense is hot or cold. It's actually just Doug McDermott. Same thing I said for Doug McDermott. When his offense is on, he's really helping the team. But when his offense is not on, he is such a liability on both ends of the floor. And there's been a lot of times this year, and I hate to bring him into this, but I feel like when we have Bryn Forbes and Tre Jones on the floor at the same time, any lead we had, whoosh, there it goes, because we are so undersized when they're both out there. And a lot of times Pop will have Bryn, Tre, and Lonnie. This is Pop's fault. Let's be honest. Pop's not perfect. And when I see such a small rotation, I'm like, oh, they're getting fifth chance opportunities with the offensive rebounds. But Bryn is what he is. Good dude. I don't see him being in our long-term plans. I could see him possibly getting traded before the trade deadline because we do have a lot of guards on this team, the San Antonio guards. And I think he'd be better off in a system where there's a star player that's getting double teamed, and he's standing out there all alone behind the three-point land and just launching them, like Milwaukee last year with Giannis.
Yeah, he's definitely an asset right now, I think, to the rest of the league. He's done that. Maybe he can bring us back something in return. That'd be great.
Yeah, he's a very movable asset too. His contract is very cheap.
Speaking of Tre Jones, he's next.
Tre Jones, man, I love Tre Jones. I was listening to, I think it was like a Twitter space from Noah McGarl George. Shout out Noah. And they were talking about him, and they were kind of discussing whether or not, I don't know, am I saying that right? Whether or not he's going to be in our long-term plans or not. And I kind of think he is. I think he is. And I think right off the bat, when we drafted him, we didn't have to give him a 2-year deal. Like, he was a second round pick. Like, we could have gave him a non-guaranteed contract, just like most of them get. But right when we got him, we were like, bro, here's 2 years for sure. Like, we're committing to you, or 2 or 3 years, whatever it was. And then we're like, okay, bye, Quinndary. You know, like Quinndary, like that was the end of Quinndary Weatherspoon with the Spurs when we drafted Tre Jones.
That's a garbage time Q.
Garbage time Q with the Warriors, right? You know, I love his winning mentality. I'll just kind of sum it up in that way. It's just that he plays. There's not many guys on our team that plays smart, strategic, winning basketball. And, you know, it's not all about scoring. It's not all about what your shooting percentage is. There's a lot of other things that need to happen on the floor, knowing when to push the ball, knowing when you have an advantage or when you don't. He's a great defender for his size. And he just makes the right play more often than not in ways that I don't see anyone else kind of doing for us. And he's an above average, I think, finisher at the rim. For his size is extremely impressive. You know, that's like Iverson, like Kyrie, like, you know, smaller dudes that can just, you know, they have a guy right there, a 6'6" guy right on their back on the way to the rim, but they're still finishing, you know, amongst the trees. And I think Tre Jones does a fantastic job at that. I know his 3-point percentage is nowhere, right? Pretty much doesn't even have one.
15.
Yeah. So I understand that. I don't think we need that from him. I don't think that's a knock on him. I think that what he does when he is being aggressive offensively, the way he can get to the paint, put his floater up, little mid-range jump shot up. We saw in the G League this past summer a little bit what his bag is. Now, he hasn't really had too much opportunity this season to show, but I think when he does get in there, I have this feeling that I'm just like, okay, I feel more relaxed versus having like a Bryn Lonnie in there together at the same time. You put Tre Jones in there, I'm like, okay, someone has a head on their shoulders. Someone actually knows and can see what's happening in this game. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of different moving pieces. And Tre Jones, just like his brother Tyus, right? Tyus is having a great season this year with Memphis. And I think Tre Jones has that same potential to just be this killer backup point guard. Like, I mean, you can say like George Hill, Corey Joe, right? He can be like that in my eyes. And I think it'll happen sooner than later. There's a reason why, like I said, we extended that offer to him. And I think it's because right away coming out of Duke, you can see, you know, he comes from that basketball family. You like that too. You like kids that come from that kind of environment. And he's just leaps and bounds mentally, I think. And so in his second year, I love what I see out of him. I'm going to give him a B. You know, I just need to see more again. Like, I need to see more of Tre on the floor.
I gave him a B plus. I am a huge fan of Tre Jones. I think he is just a very gifted and natural playmaker, a real pure point guard, probably the only pure point guard we have on the team. I know Dejounte's gotten a lot better at playmaking, but coming into the NBA, he was not a pure point guard. Tre Jones is just naturally gifted at finding his teammates and understanding how an offense works. Coming off that pick and roll with Jock Landale is dangerous. It is really dangerous. I really like their chemistry there. I think he's a better passer than Bryn Forbes. I think he's a better passer than Lonnie Walker. I honestly think he might be, I don't know. I haven't seen enough from him to say he's better than Derrick White, but it's close, in my opinion. And defensively, I think he is really underrated. I think he's bigger than most people think. I think he's actually like 6'4", 6'5". Like he's right there close to
6'3" is where the Spurs have him listed on their roster.
6'4". I might be completely wrong, but looking at him in person, he's a lot thicker and bigger than I expected him to be. Pause. But yeah, I think his upside is definitely a lot higher than most people are giving him credit for. I just hope he gets more consistent play time in the second half of the season, because I think he'll shock a lot of Spurs fans that aren't expecting anything out of him.
I'm giving Tre a B+ too. Obviously, there's some things he needs to work on. And I want to, I guess I'll be the Tre Jones truther here on the show. I think that he has potential shooting threes. I know it sounds crazy when you look at the percentage, but like if you watch his shot, it's not terrible. You know, I think, look, if Keldon can turn it around, I think Tre Jones can, you know, get to just being a 30% 3-point shooter. Maybe not this season, but moving forward, gets in the gym with Chip England. I think he's going to be fine there. But y'all were talking about his basketball IQ and how, he's kind of got that head on his shoulders. When he's out there, he has that sense of calmness. Think about it. He went from Coach K to Greg Popovich. That's who he's been coached by at the highest level, like two of the greatest coaches of all time, and obviously I'm sure all of us believe that Pop's the best coach of all time, but so arguably the greatest NBA coach of all time and the greatest college coach of all time, who are also both Olympic gold medalist coaches as well. So you can just see that. I'm pretty sure that he's a guy that likes to soak up a lot of knowledge, and I'm sure he soaked up a lot of knowledge from both of those guys and his brother as well. Man, the way that he's been able to hold it down and just be that playmaker, be a dynamic player whenever he's driving to the rim, has a little bit more of a bag than maybe you would have thought coming into this year. But then also defensively, the way that he can be a dog there and can just, be a pest and a menace against whoever he's guarding. Obviously, there's still some young guy mistakes that happen, but yeah, he may be a second round pick, but a lot of people thought he was the steal of that draft. I felt like maybe not the steal of that draft, but he was a steal in that draft in the second round. And I'm really glad we picked him up because I think he's going to be that backup point guard for years to come if we can hold on to him.
Actually, really don't have anything to add after everything you guys said, except I'm going to give him a B. Ethan, did you mention he was 6'3", 6'4"?
I thought he was 6'4".
He grew this year for sure.
He's definitely bigger than that.
NBA, ESPN, and Basketball Reference all have him at 6'1".
But it's weird because the Spurs roster has him at 6'3". It's
Do they?
and there's a lot of different discrepancies. Yeah, we had it on our show at the beginning of the year. It's really weird. They have Devin at 6'7", and then the NBA has him at 6'5". I don't know.
I've noticed Devin has different heights depending on where you look.
Yep, and it's the same thing with Tre. But when you watch the game, like it looks like he grew a little bit. And remember, like men grow until they're 25, guys. So these young guys, they could. Yeah, no, I mean, like, look, when Primo's 6'9", it's going to be great. But anyways,
we're almost to Primo, by the way. I know some people are probably listening. When are they going to get to Primo? Well, we're saving the best for last. But before that, we have some of y'all's favorite players over there on SSPN. We got Thunder Dunk of Justice himself, Drew Eubanks.
All right, before I just don't feel right speaking on Drew first. I'll speak on Drew. I'll put myself like second. I'll put right before Rich. Okay, I'll let Ethan and Jude go on wax first with their takes on Drew.
Ethan, I gotta bust something out. You talk.
All right. Drew has been very disappointing to me, unfortunately. I was really hyped for Drew Eubanks going into this season. I thought he was going to prove everybody wrong. There's that signed poster of Drew Eubanks, my man, the GOAT.
Never
himself.
leave.
Never leave. I hope he's a lifelong Spur, honestly, even to this day. He definitely doesn't deserve any more playing time unless we're really, really looking for a big guy. I still think he's a capable paint defender. Along the perimeter, he's got no chance. His three ball was all hype, apparently, because it was there for like one game and then disappeared.
The first shot.
Yeah, his first shot was like pure. And then from that point on, it was like me out there shooting. If we need a dunk, he's great. But unfortunately, I think he's just like the game doesn't come naturally enough for him, and he forces too many things, and he gets in his own way one too many times, and that has resulted in him no longer getting any playing time. So I'm gonna give him a D. I can't give him an F, but I'll give him a D. It's so disappointing.
I'll give him a D too, man. Look, the fact that Drew Eubanks is in the NBA should tell you that like anything is possible. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, because he's just a dude who is literally like, he's on the roster because in Pop's own words, he busts his ASS every single night that he's out there. And that's something that you can never take away from him. And so, this year, obviously, he got the opportunity. We saw how it went at the beginning of the year, was taken advantage of, had some good moments, but, the good moments were far outweighed by the rest of the moments that happened. So, it's fine because he's going to go to the G League. The Austin Spurs are going to win 10 straight championships, and he's going to be the greatest G League player of all time. And, the hook shot down there,
it's
nobody
money.
can guard that.
It's money.
Nobody can guard that. K-Cock, move out the way. No, I'm just playing. Because Devontae K-Cock's been playing great. But
yes.
look, I hope that Drew can find somewhere else, a spot in the league where he can maybe be utilized. I think he's obviously he's a reserve, but I think that with his character and his energy, and he is 6'10", 240, I think there's a spot for him somewhere out there in pro basketball.
I think there's a spot for him on like our coaching staff or like our Austin development staff, or something, because yeah, I gave him a C, right? It's probably one of my lower grades, a C minus. And believe me, I was right there with you guys in the beginning of the year. I'm like, oh, we're gonna see it, man. This is the year. He's gonna let us see it.
10 and 10.
Yeah, he's gonna exactly. He's gonna hit 1 or 2 threes a game, right? Like, oh my goodness. He was talking. That's the disappointing part, right? My expectations were high preseason for Drew Eubanks, and then he missed his opportunity. And I think that's the only way I can kind of put it, is that when they did give him the nod to be the backup center and then the replacement for Jock, he had an opportunity to show more, and he didn't. And he showed us that he still is who he is. He's a great energy guy. He can finish at the rim. He's going to go for it he's going to go for the block. He might get dunked on. He might dunk on people, whatever. We already kind of knew that that's what Drew was, and he had an opportunity to show us either an improved jump shot or playmaking, right? We're seeing great improvement in that area from Jakob. We're seeing that Jock Landale can play make as well. And guess what? Zach Collins can play make and rebound as well. You know what I mean? Like Zach Collins is a great he's just like those two guys. And automatically, I don't think the Spurs are gonna like give Zach Collins minutes right away, just like they didn't to Jock Landale. I don't think they will. But I think if he starts playing, I think that that definitely moves Drew Eubanks down to the very bottom, right? And moving forward, I don't know if he's gonna still be on the team or not. I really like Drew, like you guys did. I know I miss Drew too. I want nothing but the best for Drew, but there was an opportunity for him there, and if he was just a little bit too shy to throw that bounce, that backdoor bounce pass, or a little too shy to step out and actually shoot that three. He played in the game the other day, and he caught the ball in the perimeter. I'm like, now, Drew, now.
Yeah, I was with you. I was wanting him to shoot it so bad.
I was yelling, don't do it.
I'm like, just throw it up there, man. What do you got to lose, bro? Well, you know what I mean? He knows
his shot so bad. You watch Drew shoot the three now, and he's taking off as soon as he shoots it, going for the offensive rebound. He knows it ain't going in.
Yes, and you know what? That's on him. That's on no one else. But I love Drew, and he's a Spur guy. And like I said, I would like to see him maybe like on the sidelines one day, just coaching up. Being a good locker room presence, an assistant coach maybe.
Drew Eubanks.
I'm retiring him already.
The first letter of his
Drew.
first name is very apropos. I'm actually giving him a D-, working at capacity, but not at grade level. My take on Drew Eubanks, heart greater than talent. 100% energy, gives all his best, but the talent is just not there. And the reason I'm giving a D- is because he had the opportunity with the starting role. And not only did he blow it there, so to speak, he just didn't perform as well, but he lost his spot as the backup center. And when you lose your spot, I can't give you anything higher than a D, and I'm going to give him a D- just because he had the chance. He had one chance, and he blew it. But he did. I think he's the reason I came up with the term Thunder Dunk of Justice, because he is a fun dunker, and he is fun to watch, but he's not going to be there long term. And with Zach Collins coming back, I think you're not going to see him probably. He might be part of a package deal. Who knows? Maybe if Bryn gets traded or Thad gets traded, because we're all about trading in the San Antonio Spurs organization. Maybe he could be a piece that's thrown in. Dog agrees. Last but not least, our other lottery pick, our other second lottery pick in 2 decades, our teenage rookie who set some NBA records this year, some weird, odd stats that you kind of have to make him fit this way to fit into the puzzle. But Joshua Primo, excuse me, don't call him Josh. Joshua Primo, your take, Rob.
This kid is born ready. He has that born ready mentality. I love what he's done with his opportunity, right? We're talking about what Drew didn't do with his. We're seeing what Josh can do with his, and he's coming in. And I love what Pop says about him, how he's just not impressed by anything that he does. He's just like, whatever, next play. He's not beating his chest. He's not, getting all crazy. He hit that 3 ball to send it to overtime against Portland. He's a great shooter. He is the most modern day basketball player on our team, I think. And I think that, moving forward, that's why I think the future is really Devin and Primo and then whoever else, right? But those are your two best. Those are going to be your two best players. And I put a film room out on my channel as well on Josh Primo and how he played against the Toronto Raptors. And what I loved out of that game was that he was just there for the battle. And it really showed his versatility in what he can do with his size already. His arms are huge already. Like, I know you were joking, like he's going to be 6'9", by the, whatever. But honestly, he might be.
He's taller than Dejounte already. I saw a picture today.
He might grow more and just fill out more. And with his skill set, he's a great passer. He gets the rock. He looks down. He looks down the court as soon as he gets it and can get the ball where he needs to get it. He's a great catch and shoot player. He can shoot off the dribble. But I love the way he battles on the defensive end. I like how he's not afraid to battle and post up with Siakam, or he's not afraid to get out there and try to get long on Fred VanVleet. Going back to that film room breakdown I did, if you haven't seen it, Spurs Nation, go ahead and check it out. But those are the little things to me that are like, oh my God, this kid is 19 years old, but he's doing what 20-some-year-olds cannot do or won't do. Speaking of Lonnie, those are the two different sides of the coin. Lonnie will not get physical, and Joshua Primo is like checking guys already. I'm just like, dang, dude. I'm like, wow. And he's skilled with the ball. We already know all that, but it's those little things, the mentality, like Pop says, like the quote I said earlier, to me is just like, man, the sky really is the limit. Brian Wright, give him an extension, all right? Give Brian Wright another 4 or 5 years for drafting this kid, just for this year's draft. And we were all like, who? Joshua Primo, who? But man, thank God we drafted this guy, because, last year we drafted probably the best. 2 years ago, we drafted the best 3-and-D player in the draft, in my opinion. I really liked Tyrese Halliburton at that point, but I also thought I was like, Spurs pick is Vassell, and Vassell can be like that modern day 3-and-D player, and Primo can be your modern day point guard player. We always talk about the modern day point guard has the ball in his hands and can shoot, coming down in transition, just stop and pop at the three, and he could just do so much. So I really can't put a cap on him. And so to give him a grade to kind of close this out, I'm going to give him an A. I love that he's gone up and down from the G League. I think we need him, just like how you were saying earlier, Rich, about Devin Vassell. Is like, are we going to put the leash on him? Can we please not put the leash on Primo as well? I think both of those two guys have to be the exception to this Spurs way rule, where the Spurs way tells you, we're going to send you down to the G League. We're going to give you time to develop. We're going to give you a season or 2 season. I'm like, these two guys need, and Keldon, I was saying the same thing about Keldon the year before, that these guys need to be on the floor now, not 2 years from now. And there's no, it's not like they're not going to get better by being on the NBA floor. They're going to get better too. The other part though, is just that I think they're going to make us better. They actually do make us better. We're seeing what Primo can do now. I know that Joe Wieskamp and K-Cock got sent down to Austin today, I think, and Primo didn't. So I think that's a good sign. It might just be because we still have players coming back off protocol. So maybe they're going to be on a minute restriction. We're going to give Primo more opportunity. But what Primo has done with his opportunity is amazing. And he's going to get an A for me, because he can still get better. There's mistakes, there's turnovers, there's missed assignments, here and there on the defensive end too. But I mean, it's lopsided. It's like the pros are up here and the cons are way, way down here.
I want to just add something real quick to what Rob was saying when we all said who when Joshua Primo was drafted. I've covered the Spurs on this channel for 3 years. Luka Samanic was who? Devin Vassell was the drafted guy I heard of. Joshua Primo was who? So that means in this year's draft, based on history, we're going to draft somebody we've all heard of.
That's good.
Hopefully so. I'm going to go with a B+. Joshua Primo has impressed me a lot this year. The most important reason has been his confidence. Just doesn't shy away from any moment, no matter how big it is. He's not afraid to take the next shot. I don't care if he missed the last 3 in a row. He's going to take the next one with the same amount of confidence. I love that about him, especially since he's only 19 years old. He's everything that was advertised on draft night and more. I expected him to be a guy that can kind of spread the floor, make a corner three every once in a while, but that's pretty much it, at least for the time being. But he's really impressed me with his overall size, his ability to defend, and his ball handling is a lot better than I expected. He has a little bit more of a bag than I expected. He can score in different ways aside from just spot up threes, which I like. I know he's 39% from the field, but that's to be expected from a guy that's a rookie and a guy that's a guard in the West that's going to be having some really challenging defensive matchups on any given night. The reason I'm not going to give him an A is because he's still making a lot of rookie mistakes, but that's to be expected. I think that should be embraced because Tony Parker was thrown into the fire early on as well, and he made a lot of mistakes. Manu Ginobili also made a lot of mistakes, and they got yelled at by Pop for it a lot, and a lot of Spurs fans did not like them at the time because of how young they were and how many mistakes that they made. But they improved and they got better and they learned from those mistakes. Since we're not trying to get into the playoffs this year, we're not going to win a championship. I say give him as much playing time as we can spare. Let him make these mistakes. Let him grow because he has the potential to be a playmaker, in my opinion. He's shown flashes of that ability. I think it's just a decisiveness and everything that needs to be kind of fine-tuned a little bit more, as well as, understanding the offense. And that will just come with time. But I really think he's going to be a superstar going forward. I see nothing but great things in his future.
I'm going to give him an A-. I think, obviously I'm going to echo a lot of the things that you guys said. The A- is literally just because of the rookie mistakes that happen here and there, just like Ethan said, as to be expected. Here's the thing with Josh Primo. So he comes into the league already after he played at Alabama in that kind of spot up shooter role off their 2-star players that they had. He came into the league already like that. Like he can play like that right now if we want him to, which is why earlier when we were talking about Lonnie, I suggested, well, you might as well just throw Primo in there. But the thing that has impressed me probably the most about Primo is not just his playmaking, because I kind of saw that a little bit in the G League. He's a guy that can score at all 3 levels, which, is a very valuable thing, and he can do it consistently. Moving forward, maybe not right now in his rookie year. But the thing that really sticks out to me is, like Rob was saying earlier, the way he's checked dudes, his physicality, his size as well, and his defensive foundation. Like I mentioned earlier, like when you see him and he's guarding somebody, he's in a stance. Like a lot of times Lonnie will be a little bit lackadaisical, or there are other guys who may be a little bit lackadaisical and a little bit upright, and that allows guys to blow past him. Almost every time you watch Primo, he's just fundamentally sound. You can tell that he like Tre Jones, he takes a lot of coaching. I mean, I'm sure a lot of these guys take coaching, but with him, you can tell that he's very dedicated to like his craft, just in the way that he plays and his attention to detail in every single little thing that he does on the floor. On top of that, obviously his personality and his mentality is infectious when you watch. It's like, oh my gosh, this kid is 19. Like, how is he like this? Like, he's mature beyond his years. And I'm just so excited to see how he grows. I'm so glad Brian Wright drafted him when he did. And another thing about him is with his height, and if that continues to happen, he continues to fill out. I mean, right now, we've seen it with everybody being out. He's a guy who can really play 1 through 3. And that's super versatile. And if that continues, it's only going to make the physicality aspect of him be even more valuable, and it will allow him to just be even more versatile of a player moving forward. So I'm so excited to see what he does. We were all like, who, what, when it happened. I remember even being angry with some friends, like, seriously, Kai Jones, give us a big man. But the way that this year has gone, it's obvious that, there's a reason Brian Wright's the GM and we're not. So shout out to Primo. Can't wait to see what he does moving forward.
I'm going to give him a B+. The rookie mistakes are certainly there. And the teenager mistakes, I think when people beat him up on my stream, like, he's a scrub, he sucks. I'm like, this guy's 19 in the NBA. I think any one of us would kill to play for the Spurs just for 10 seconds at the end of the 4th quarter. And this guy's like living the dream. He's going to make mistakes. That being said, I love the no fear on defense and offense. He was having a terrible game against the Nets. He was like 2 of 12 or 3 of 13, whatever it was. And he hit a big 3. He's not afraid to keep shooting. And you got to have that if you're going to succeed in the NBA. You can't all of a sudden get gun shy, so to speak. When you miss a couple shots, like, start deferring. Teams are just going to leave you open if you're not going to shoot. So I love the no fear. What's his ceiling? I don't know literally how tall he's going to be or how good he's going to be. But I do think we talked about him earlier. He could be one of the reasons Lonnie Walker does not get extended, because we have a lot of guards. And Lonnie's ceiling, we seem to have seen it, 11 points per game. Having that one game once in a while that makes us go, Lonnie is the guy. He just scored 25, carried the team to a win or helped get him back in the game, and then disappear for the next 3 games. So I think Joshua Primo is set to take over his spot. I have a bonus for all of us. I didn't mention this in the Twitter. A lot of folks have asked. So we have a surprise rating. We're going to rate Greg Popovich.
Okay.
Okay.
Do I go first or?
Yes. Surprise.
Okay. Okay. I know a lot of people are on the fence. I honestly just think that Pop, I don't put it all on Pop because the players got to be able to execute and stuff like that. And earlier on in the season, we saw we couldn't execute for crap. Now, I'm not too sure. This is just where I'm on the fence because I'm not too sure exactly what he does now. I'm not too sure that he's as involved as he used to be. And I mean
He's
this
the
by
president.
I think that he, and I'm talking about like in game situations, I feel like he I just from what I see, I think he really does put a lot of responsibility into his assistant coaches. And I think that might just be because he's like, yeah, I'm older. I'm going to develop these coaches. There's plenty of times where you see is it Mitch Johnson?
Yeah.
Or Becky, someone take the huddle, take the play, take stuff like he really lets them, work. And as an assistant coach, you love that because you're getting opportunity to learn and to grow in that. And I just feel like that's what it is. A lot of people are like, man, he doesn't have it anymore. He's not drawing up these miraculous plays at the end of games like the way he used to. We also don't have Manu and Tony, you know what I mean, and Timmy to execute the shit out of whatever it is. And even if it doesn't work, I'm sorry for the cuss.
Right.
Even if the play breaks down, those 3 guys knew how to counter the counter. You know what I mean? Like those guys. That's why it's like such a big difference. We don't have that this year. I think Pop gets a B+. I think he's going to get his mark this year. He's going to become the all-time winning coach. I'm pretty confident that we'll get, was it 11 more games? Is that what it is? 10, 11?
12 to break the record, I think.
So yeah. I think we'll get it. I think we'll get that. I think
12.
I think what he's kind of doing now is just, chewing out guys sometimes. You don't really see him do that too much either. I don't know. I can definitely understand people are like, oh, he's just sitting in his chair now or whatever. I don't think it's that. I think he's very, very involved. But in the game, I can kind of see I see the difference. And so I'm not going to put it on Pop. I'm never going to put it on Pop. Pop's the GOAT. He's the best. But this year, I understand what people see, I guess. But I don't agree with it. I don't think he's lost his touch. I don't think he's out of it. I don't think it's like, oh, he doesn't understand the game anymore. I don't think any of that's true. I just feel like he delegates a lot this year and he's letting his assistants do a lot of coaching. And because a lot of those assistants have been with those guys since they were rookies and sophomores and talking about Dejounte, Derrick, Lonnie, Keldon, a lot of those guys. So, I wouldn't be surprised if this is his last year. I wouldn't be surprised if it's not, to be honest. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to grade, but I'll give him a B+, maybe B+.
I think that's fair. I'll give him a B because I don't think it's all on Pop either. Because it wasn't that long ago when he was still winning. Like we talk about it as if it was like 10 years ago when he was last like really making a push for the playoffs. But it was like 2017 was probably the last time we really had a chance at winning the championship. And then 2018 we were still relatively good. 2019 we were like, we're probably bottom of the playoffs. And now here we are 3 years after that. And honestly, looking at the roster itself, the expectations still aren't playoffs, in my opinion. So I don't know what we could ask him to do, just like pull out of his magical hat of Pop greatness that would all of a sudden launch us into into something that we just aren't, which is like a much better team. I don't know. It's hard to say because I'm not a coach. I'm not in the coaching. I'm not on the coaching staff. I don't know what he's doing or not doing, like Rob said. But I mean, I know he pulls guys that are hot, and he doesn't really let the young guys, play as much as maybe we would love him to do. But he's never done that, and that's what we used to love about Pop. Back when we were winning championships, like, oh, he doesn't take any crap from the young guys. They don't get minutes because they're young. They get them when they deserve them, and he's so structured because we're the best organization ever. We can take Manu out when Manu's, hot because we can just bring in Danny Green and not lose anything. And he's still doing that. We're just not as good of a team. So it's hard to say, but I mean, it's not all on the players. Some of it's probably on him, but I don't know. But I think B is fair.
I'm going to roll with the B+. Really just ditto everything you guys said. I think at the end of the day, look, what did we kind of want out of this year? Like, I'm obviously we would have loved to see a playoff team and all that stuff. But I think at the end of the day, the thing that we all wanted going into this year was to have a pretty good shot of getting that record. Like, I think at minimum, that's probably one thing we can kind of all agree on that we wanted out of the Spurs, and he's put them in that position. And you got to remember too, these last 2 years, not only was there the whole Kawhi situation, Ruben just brought that up in the comments, but you've had to deal with COVID these past 2 years when the team was just getting into their groove. There's some things that annoy me, like the switching everything. Like, why are we, I mentioned that earlier. We still see Jock or Jock on some elite perimeter player, and it's just like an easy step back three for them, right? And so that's definitely one thing that's kind of annoyed me throughout the season. But kind of like Ethan said, a lot of the other stuff that maybe we're a little bit annoyed with, other than Devin, I think that's one thing where it's like Devin should get those minutes. It's stuff that he's been doing for a while. Maybe one other thing that would just kind of be a reason of not giving him an A is like the whole Lonnie Walker thing and minutes. Like, I get that he probably wants to give Lonnie that opportunity because it's a contract year, but it's like, look, we're halfway through the season. Let's do what win games. And he says he doesn't care about the record, but let's do what wins games and get you that record, bro. So like I said, the main thing for me is just that switching thing. That's the thing that continuously annoys me every single game. But other than that, man, he's the greatest coach of all time. And he's putting us in a position to get that record this year, which really is all, in my opinion, we could really ask.
Pop is definitely the greatest San Antonio Spurs coach of all time. However, I cannot grade on past accolades. I'm giving him a C. I don't like the rotations a lot of times in the games. And what really kind of made me take a huge step back is we were only out Dejounte Murray versus the Detroit Pistons, which are one of the worst teams in the NBA. And they had guys I've never heard of. Tons of guys that were G League players and on 10-day contracts. And that coach had them ready to go and had that team fired up. And our team just looked lackluster, ended up losing in overtime. And with this team probably could be worse if a different coach was there, or maybe it could be better. The fact that, we don't play rookies, we have played rookies. Tim Duncan played now. He was a first-round overall pick. But Tony got thrown out there. Manu got minutes off the bench. Kawhi got minutes his rookie year. And this whole notion Spurs don't play rookies, I don't think it's always been there. When we were winning, we had no reason to throw rookie into the starting lineup. But now that we're losing, this is clearly a team that's not could be a playoff contender, but still trying to win by bringing in guys with Bryn Forbes. And this is the organization with Pop too. He helps to decide who's on the roster. Bringing in McDermott and Bryn Forbes. We need to bring a 3-point shooting so we can win. What are we winning? Even with them here, 35 games. I picked them to win 32-36. I think some of the rotations that we have, when we have a hot player, yank them out. Sorry, you've been in the corner for 6 minutes. I got to go with my rotation. And just some of the personnel decisions, we're not built to win. And then just bringing in these veterans whose ceilings we know they've hit them already. Is just, I'd rather throw the young guys out there and give Devin Vassell more minutes, throw Lonnie to the fire, give him more minutes, just bring in veterans. I don't know. I don't get it because they're not ready to win, and bringing in vets to help 3-point shooting. I'd rather just build. And if we're a bad 3-point shooting team, so be it. And you know what? We're a bad 3-point shooting team.
Yeah. Let me I agree with you guys. I think the Lonnie thing very much is about his contract year, just like it was with Bryn that last year he was here before he left. And that's a good thing. You got to understand that we got to do some of those things because we got to have good rapport with players to try to treat them right to get them here because they won't come here, right? So maybe a veteran who's a little bit past his prime will come because they know we're going to do right by them and give them the opportunity like we did to Rudy Gay and Patty Mills, all these guys who are all on some of the top teams of the league right now. Now, I just had a thought. I know we're not talking about Thaddeus Young, but DeMar DeRozan's about to be an All-NBA guy this year.
Yep.
Now, in that trade that we did with them for DeMar, I guess this is putting Brian Wright a little bit in a hot seat. Do we need a deal? I'm sorry, this isn't about grading, but I'm just thinking, man, we just let All NBA, and we knew how good he was, but he's All NBA level now this year, and we got Al-Farouq Aminu's gone. We have a draft pick, like 3 years from now, I think, or something like that in the future.
Next year, I don't know.
And then we have Thaddeus Young is the last piece to that, right? I'm not forgetting anything, I don't think.
It was just picks, Al-Farouq
and Al-Farouq Aminu.
Okay, so are we gonna trade that? Do we need to kind of salvage any type of return in this DeMar DeRozan trade, or is that just looking really, really bad on us now? Because no one's talking about that. Everyone talks about the Kawhi thing. It's like, oh, we got Keldon Johnson and Jakob Poeltl out of the Kawhi deal.
But they got a championship, Rob, so they're always going to say that they got the better deal.
No,
it's only 1 year rental.
I would understand that. But with the DeMar one, how are you guys feeling about Thaddeus Young? Can we trade him? Some people think maybe we're just going to buy him out when the time comes, because that's kind of what we've done too. Would you, Rich? I'll ask you first, Rich. Would you be willing to trade him for anything, or do you think we're just going to buy him out?
I would take a late second round pick for him to get something for nothing. He also has, I think, a $10 million contract. So if we can get rid of that, so be it. I have a bad feeling in my stomach, just like LaMarcus Aldridge last year. The same situation. LaMarcus Aldridge stopped playing. And I think that hurt his trade value. The Spurs just stopped playing him. It seemed like he didn't want to be here. You got another guy that doesn't want to be here, is not playing. Teams are going to look at that and say, why trade anything for him? They don't want this guy here. He doesn't want to be there. They're going to buy him out. They did it with LA last year. Yeah, we'll just wait until they do it with Thad this year. I mean, wouldn't you feel the same with your GM? You just saw that happen with Aldridge last year. Let them get rid of him. They don't want him. They're not going to keep him on the roster for the whole year.
Yeah. It would have to be a team that really wants him, right? That isn't willing to let the buyout market happen because they might not get him. And I just don't know if that team is out there.
Yeah. Ethan brought that up on the last episode because we were kind of talking, okay, he's probably going to get traded for like a pick or something. But then he brought up the buyout thing. And I was like, that's what I feel like is going to be the most likely scenario. But the other thing that I kind of just want to say about the DeMar trade, right, is that like last year, his value was like so much lower, and it was so hard to get anything because everybody was like, why would we trade for this guy when we could just get him as an unrestricted free agent? So like when it comes to getting that like back, I think that honestly, DeMar, I think he went to a situation that he liked, as we've seen this year, but also I think that he kind of helped us out there. Honestly, I don't think if like we didn't treat him the way that he did, with everything going down the way that it did, I don't think that he would have been as willing to guarantee that like, hey, you guys are going to get something out of me. So hopefully we could flip Thad. Maybe I know there were like rumors about the Suns a long time ago. Who knows how true they were? But maybe some team is just like, we really want him in the locker room and can give us a second round pick from like 2026 or something. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that.
I want to add this. Do you guys, and anybody who wants to chime in, feel free to do so. Two questions to wrap up the episode. Did we use DeMar DeRozan incorrectly in his time in San Antonio? Because he was a scorer in Toronto, and then we tried to make him more of a facilitator and our main assist guy when that really should have been given to Dejounte and wasn't. And the second part of my question is we're talking about being able to land a free agent, which being in a small market, probably not likely. But then I look at the Memphis Grizzlies and what they're doing, and they built their teams into draft, which is what we originally did, making our championship team. So the two-part question, did we misuse DeMar DeRozan? And second, if we don't get free agents, can we build to the draft like we did before? Because we're probably going to get a lottery pick this year. Again.
I don't think we necessarily misused DeMar DeRozan. You could argue that Dejounte should have had more playmaking duties than he was given, and I can accept that as probably true. But Chicago also has Lonzo Ball, who's one of the best facilitators in the game. And they have Zach LaVine, who's going to be an all-star as well, with DeMar DeRozan, who's one of the best scorers and three-point shooters in the NBA, and athletic finishers, obviously. And they have Alex Caruso, who's
And
capable,
Vucevic.
and Nikola Vucevic, who's capable of drawing a double in the paint. So, yes, maybe we should have given Dejounte more responsibility offensively. Sure, maybe we would have won a few more games. But we would not have been number one in the West, and I don't think we would have been even – maybe we would have broken into the playoffs instead of the play-in. But it's a difficult question to answer because we will never know. But I don't think we misused them to the extent where we would have been a completely different team, if that makes sense.
My thought is,
I agree.
Ethan, is we see Dejounte the year he's having now because he is now El Capitan. And what if he was given that role last year? What if we didn't, have to make him wait and said, DeMar, your job is just to score instead of just being, you guys remember last year, just players are standing around and we ran a lot of iso ball.
It definitely would have helped. I can't argue that. It definitely would have helped. But I don't think it would have made the difference that we maybe are hoping that it would have.
Maybe not in wins, but maybe Dejounte would have developed even quicker. I think last year held him back a little bit. Or maybe he learned from it. I don't know. Only he knows that.
I think that kind of falls into what Rob said earlier, and not to interrupt you, but just the fact that like how you do players, like how you treat them. I just feel like with DeMar's experience and like with Patty and Rudy, they just weren't going to put Dejounte like as the main guy over those guys when they had been in the league so long. And I don't know, that it kind of similar to the Lonnie thing, but anyways.
Ask Tony Parker that. Oh, sorry.
No,
and do you guys think, can we build this year? I expect us to have a top 10 pick. Let's be honest. We're I think 12th right now, and barring a miraculous turnaround, we'll probably get Pop the record and still be a lottery team. And maybe we'll luck out. Tim Duncan, we were not the worst team in the NBA. We were the third worst team and hit that one overall pick. So if we can hopefully get a top 6-7 pick, I personally feel like we're just one big guy away from being a playoff team again. I think there's talent there, but just getting crushed on the boards every night and really not having that consistent score. A lot of people in my chat say, well, Dejounte can be the 20-plus per point guy. I'm like, he's already one of our top rebounds, top assist guy, top steal guy. You're asking, I think, a little too much. He's not Jordan, Kobe, or LeBron. But if he can have his Robin that goes out there and can score 20 to 25, I think we'll be good shape. And a big man, preferably, that can also maybe hit 30.
Who wants to take it?
Nobody.
Wait, what was the question?
In the draft, and you think, do we really need a free agent, or are we like one player away, like a big guy?
We're like a pick or two away from getting to like that Memphis level that you're talking about, I think. And like the Denver Nuggets too, they're another good example, right? With Murray, Jokic, and Michael Porter Jr. and those guys that they drafted. I think we're close. I think we're closer to that than we are building through free agency for sure.
I think we're 3 years and 3 drafts away from being a top 4 seed in the West. And I think that seems like a long way away, but I think that's probably realistic. And then we're probably 4 years away from actually having a realistic chance of winning a championship, unless we sign a big free agent. But I am very skeptical of that ever happening because we're San Antonio.
Yeah, I don't see that.
Brad likes Pop's thickness. Or no,
Oh, yeah.
Pop likes Brad's thickness.
They're both probably true. The inverse is usually true.
Yeah, a little bit of both, but no. And I don't think we're going to get Bradley Beal. But I think that, like we were mentioning with Devin Vassell and Josh Primo, like think about how good those guys are going to be in 3 years. And maybe we end up being wrong, but I really think we do our best to look at things objectively, even though we're all Spurs fans. And I think if you get a couple more pieces like this year, if you could get another top 10 pick, hey, I'm just saying, I was playing a My League earlier. They got 27 wins. I did because Start Today finally works in 2K. And so it like started from the record we're at now. We got 27 wins and I didn't even watch the draft lottery. I was like, let me go into this. I'm like, oh shoot, we have the first pick. Jabari Smith, baby. We got our stretch 4. Let's go. Obviously that probably won't happen. But you never know. You never know, like you said, Rich. But I think that, definitely we don't need a free agent. I mean, it would be awesome if you could get a free agent. Like if you have like a free agent that's a big name that's like, hey, I want to come play for you. obviously pursue that with the cap space that we have. But I think if we keep staying course and building, like I thought Memphis and Denver were great examples that Rob brought up, you give it a little bit of time, it's all going to come together. You'll start winning some games. These guys have a chemistry. There's going to be some losses here and there. It won't be the same squad. But I think if you can kind of keep a core of about, 6 or 7 guys, maybe that's a little bit too much to ask, but 5 or 6 guys on the roster that really make up the team, like a Primo, Devin, Tre Jones, Dejounte, who am I forgetting? Obviously, Jock. We'll see what happens with Zach Collins. That's 6 guys right there. And I'm probably forgetting people like Keita Bates-Diop. You've kind of got a solid foundation. It seems like the guys like each other too. So I think if you stick with that for, it's going to take some time, maybe another 3 or 4 years. But I think by that point, if the Spurs can keep this group together, those guys will be a solid playoff contender.
I think they'd be a playoff team next year with a solid 4, having Keldon at the 3, Jock at the 5, maybe bubble Derrick. Maybe I don't know if Derrick. I think Derrick will play out his contract, and then they'll be it with the Spurs. It'll be, I think, 30 when his contract is done, and I think Devin or even Joshua Primo will eventually take over his spot on the team. But I think they could. I mean, we're fringe right now, and we were a playoff team last year until the health and safety protocol. So I think just one legit 20-plus point scorer, and if it's at the 4, so be it. Or maybe they get a new, draft a new 5, and Jakob's back on the bench, and Zach Collins ended up being our starting 4. I don't know what's going to happen with the team. This is uncharted territory. We've got a lot longer than I planned on us going. My apologies to everybody, but this is uncharted territory if you're a Spurs fan. This is a third, more than likely, barring an absolute miracle second half of the season. This will be our 3rd losing season in a row, which has never happened before, and probably our 3rd lottery pick in a row as well. And very uncharted, but you know what? It is at least a fun team to watch. It's frustrating, as unbelievably frustrating at times, but they are fun to watch. And win or lose, we're all going to support them in. We're all going to have that I told you so moment at some point, SSPN and SpursTubeTV. We're still here throughout the losing, and at some point, a lot of those Spurs fans are just kind of casual right now because they're losing and come back and be like, yeah, look at the Spurs. I can't believe I didn't watch this growth the last 2 years. And you're like, yep, we were here.
Facts.
Exactly.
Facts. All right, that's all I got. My apologies for going a little late, but I want to thank everybody for coming out to the channel tonight. Make sure you sub up Rob at SpursTubeTV, link in the description below. Does a lot of great highlight videos, probably doing film analysis again when he gets some free time. He's got a very busy life right now with child on the way, so certainly respect the time that takes. And make sure you sub up SSPN below Spurs Sports Programming Network, correct?
Yes.
They do excellent in-depth analysis of the Spurs, stuff that I can't even do because it's not my cup of tea. I like it, but I mean, I'm not good at explain it the way you guys do. So
appreciate it.
Thank you everybody for being here. Love our Spurs. The Giants suck. And what you gonna do when TSR Sports, SpursTubeTV, and SSPN run wild on you? Go Spurs!